Are you still managing important business processes in Microsoft Excel? Well, if so, you're likely missing key information, managing things like holiday approvals inefficiently, or worse still, spending hours and hours of time chasing invoice payments, all with outdated processes. But there's a much easier way for you to do all of this, and today I'm going to show you how. Let me introduce you to SharePoint Lists. They're built for collaboration, automation, and security, and they even look and feel a little bit like Excel, so if you're used to using Excel, you should have no issue using this tool. Now don't get me wrong, Excel is still brilliant for data analysis and number crunching, but when it comes to blending data with an automated process, Excel just really struggles. And as soon as then you add in extra things like notifications or approvals, Excel just can't keep up. So, what's a SharePoint list, you ask? Well, think of it as an online table similar to Excel, but hosted in a Microsoft 365 SharePoint site. So you and your team can access it from anywhere. You can have full control of who can see it, edit it, and what it integrates with. It'll natively integrate with Teams, Power Automate, and Power BI. So let me show you exactly how it works using a recent example that I had from a client of mine. Someone who was really struggling to manage overtime requests and was using a mix of email and Excel. This then caused them to blindly approve overtime requests and even caused delays and uncertainty when paying people. So let's create a SharePoint list, see how easy it is to make these, get you guys up and running. I'll also share with you or show you a little bit of a pre-built list that I've made just to show you some of the other features, and that's going to be based around that overtime request sheet I talked about. So I'm using Teams, but you can do this natively within SharePoint sites. We just love SharePoint and Teams here, so Teams tends to be the kind of starting point for us. So in here, all I'm going to do is click Add a tab. Normally lists will come up across the top because it's one of the kind of default Microsoft apps. But if it doesn't for any reason, you can literally search for it at the top. Clicking list will add it into Teams. And then if you click save, it'll allow us to create a new list. So again, create new. And then I think there'll be some templates on here. You can see how widely used this sort of stuff can be. For the purpose of our demo, I'm just going to start with a basic list. And I'll just call it overtime demo. And essentially this is just going to create as a fresh SharePoint list. I'll explain a little bit how it works, and then we'll jump into the pre-built one just to save me having to create all these different columns and fill things in. So here's the blank default overtime demo list we've just created. Title is a default field. You can either reuse this, or sometimes if you don't need it, you can just hide it. But essentially, I'm just going to create a few columns here to show you how easy this is to work. There's lots of different column types. You can even have calculated column types. So depending on what you want, you can use different cells and put formulas in just like Excel. But for the purpose of this and our overtime demo, just going to put in one for reason, just so you can see how this would work. I will do date and time fields, so start time of people's overtime requests, and in here you can include times as well, so rather than just being a date, we've got the actual time. I can do one for the end time, and again I'll use include time. You can also do, because it's a bit smarter than Excel, things like person, and this where it's going to pull from the 365 directory. So I could put staff, and that would literally be the person that maybe wants to request these. Other things, we can have multiple choice, we can have yes, no's, we can do different things, images and stuff. For the purpose of the demo, I'll show you a choice. So this can be like a basic approval sort of mechanism. We'll cover this in more detail in a minute, but I'll show you how it works. And all of these fields can be made mandatory and things like that as well. Now it's in then. So to add new item, there's two ways of working with this. Click the button and literally pre-fill this. So I'll run through and do it so you can see it. You can already probably see how much better and more sort of engaging this is. So I'll put that in. Look, you can see that's all gone in there. So I can work like that. I can also do what's called grid view, where I can work a bit more like Excel and I could change stuff line by line. I'm obviously not going to go through and kind of pre-fill that a bit more because I've made a demo already. So I'm just going to flick over to my pre-built one. So you can see here basically exactly what I've just done, but I've kind of added some extra fields. So we've got created, which is a timestamp for this overtime request. We've got created by the person submitting it, start time, end time. In here, I've added a explanation, and then I've added a calculated field for overtime worked. And it's super basic. All it does is say, what's the start time, what's the end time, what's the difference between the two. I've then got an approval mechanism, which is, like I just showed you, yes, approval needed, and no. And then I've just added a yes, no paid. So I'll add a new item here just so you can see how that works. But then basically once I've done that, I'll show you some kind of more advanced features that you can use this for. So 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. I'll just put in test for now. By default on this, I've configured the state of approval to be awaiting approval, and I'll show you that in a second. And the default paid to be no. We can obviously hide and manipulate these as well. But I'll just show you the kind of basic out of the box. So there we go. We've got been created a few seconds ago. Created by me because it knows who I'm logged in as. Start time, end time. It's calculated automatically the hours that have been worked. The approval state's been awaiting approval, and we don't have anything in the paid box yet. So part of the reason we love SharePoint Lists is that natively it will work with other elements. So the first bit I'll show you is forms. So you can see this is almost out of the box. All I have to do to create a form is click the create form button, and you can see it's already pulled in all the elements that I need. So imagine I'm going to give this to staff. I'd remove title because it's not needed. I'd remove the approval state because I automatically want it to go as pending approval, and I'll remove paid. So the only bits I need them to fill in: start time, end time, and their explanation. Overtime request form, I'll call this. So you can see how easy that is. You can change it and manipulate and design it just like you can do in normal forms. And if we just open this as a test, again, I can go through and put in another request. I'll do a different time just to prove the calculated fields work. So by submitting this, it's automatically going to put that entry into my SharePoint list. If I refresh it, so you can see it's automatically done it a few seconds ago. Again, it knows it was me. It's got the time and the date in, and everything's set. So again, super easy to do. Other things and other reasons that we love this are we can then use like rules. So it will natively work with Power BI and Power Automate, but for this, I'm just going to create a really quick rule for like a notification process. So this is a bit like Outlook rules. So for the purpose of this, if I'm creating a notification every time a new line's added, I can literally just say when a new item is created. So every time a new item is created, send an email to, and I could put me, but I could also choose some of the people in the list as well. Literally put that in, and every time a new rule comes in, it's going to send an email just saying that that's been there. I could then go into this, and as the approver, I could double click a column if I wanted to do it, and I can manually change this to yes or no. There is an actual approval mechanism built into Microsoft 365 and Teams, which will be a lot better to use, but for the purpose of this SharePoint Teams and SharePoint Lists demo, I'm not going to go into that, but we'll just use it as a simple mechanism. And then the other thing we could do is we can manipulate the views of this. So we could create a paid view, and I can literally just filter this view. Just going to load the web-based version of this, but ultimately it's the same set of data. So in this view, I can literally just filter. So I can say only show items when the following is true. We can find my paid field, which is here. And we can say if it's equal to yes, then show it. So if I do this now, so you can see we have all items as a list. And if I refresh it to get my other view, we have paid as well. And as long as the filters are set right and the data is set correctly, you can create as many filters as you can. So when we've used this with a client in the past, we've had stuff by month, so people can see the request worked by month. We can group by staff members, so we can see how much overtime a staff member's done, and we can even change to see who's been paid and who's not been paid for finances or the payroll to be done at the end of the month. Hopefully that is interesting and people can see the value in it. The beauty of this is you can literally, as long as you understand your process, you can tell this to do exactly what you want. You just have to understand that process. To recap, Excel is still fantastic for analysis, but if you're using it to manage processes like overtime requests, managing invoices, or even things like staff holidays, then SharePoint Lists are a smarter and much more up-to-date choice. They're collaborative, secure, and they automate the manual admin that slows most businesses down. If you'd like to explore how SharePoint Lists could work in your business, check out the link in the first line of the description from Microsoft themselves to help you get started and fully set up with SharePoint Lists. I'm Jamie, and I help businesses win with technology. And if you want to learn more about how to use Microsoft 365 productively, you can click this link right here to dive in deeper. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.